Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. We're now going to be tasting those 3 batches that I did in the previous episode. We're going to be just tasting and seeing, comparing the data. So that way, when we go back to roasting and I'm looking at the data, I'll know what to look for, because in the end, I'm trying to just roast for the cup. I want something to taste good, right? So here we go. We're breaking the crust right now. And I have a really bad kind of like sense of smell for this. I always have one nostril clogged. I have kind of like a sinus problem, how I never have clear sinuses on any given day. So I'm always kind of operating with one nostril open. Every now and again they clear up, but it's usually not when I'm about to do something like this. So that is always kind of getting in the way of taste. They say that taste is made up of 80% of your smell. So with my smell being limited, I'm only going to be able to taste so much. Also, I'll always try to get a second opinion with Kevin, as he always has a really good sense of smell and picking up like nuance and stuff like that. We're taking out the grounds from the top. We're going to skim the top. And then we're going to get ready to cup all of these. Hoffman, our prominent coffee thought leader, he encouraged me to really not get into the weeds about tasting and get too caught up in equipment or things like that. I used what I have in my kitchen. I found these random 99-cent spoons that mimic soup spoons, so they're not as deep as an official cupping spoon, but, not to really get caught up too in the weeds. Like, ultimately, I just want to taste the coffee that I roasted. I don't need to get too crazy at this point. And so I think that's encouraging for other people who want to get into coffee but maybe get intimidated, like, oh, do I have to get cupping bowls? Do I have to get a cupping spoon? I don't think you do. And I think a lot of people agree. I remember not liking this first one on the first taste, as you can see. And this was the first batch. And I'll reveal what all of these coffees were and which batch they were in order. Number 2, tasting much better. And I like this one a lot. I remember the second one being a little bit more burnt somewhere, some char, some undesirable taste that I didn't want. But being like definitely a medium roast, but that's definitely not what I was looking for. And so I make my notes again. And so naturally, with these naturals, our green coffee processed naturally, this is from El Salvador. It was about 1,300 meters elevation. I tried to adjust everything accordingly. And they say that naturals are supposed to be sweeter. So in terms of acidity to sweetness, which I think I explained later again, definitely more on the sweet side. And I'm really trying to let air and just pure primal tastes come to me, it's difficult for me to taste, I know what I like and I know what I don't like, but to pick out nuance, as with any kind of tasting, it takes time, it takes practice, and it takes a lot of just knowing the flavors of different things. And also giving words to what you're tasting. You're like, I've tasted that somewhere, but I don't know what the heck. I can't put my finger on it exactly. And that's kind of the fun of it, not to really get frustrated or whatever, but just to be like, and if it's I don't know, like cool, I don't know what that is, but it's this, and allowing yourself the freedom and the time to get better at what you love to do. Now that first one that I didn't like is tasting okay. What my question was is if on the scale of deliciousness, coffee is often said to be more delicious after it's rested. But if I'm tasting it right after it's roasted and not rested, then I'm not tasting the best, right? So it would be cool little experiment to, we're tasting this right now, and this is the same day that it was roasted. And then again, go and taste these side by side, 6 days from this date. And that'll be cool. Let's go ahead and say that we're going to do that. Mm-hmm. They all taste good, I wouldn't throw it away. And with all of these being experiments, I was pretty content, cool.
Okay. So the tasting is, first taste of this was very papery. This one was very fuller, sweeter, definitely more full-bodied, more mouthfeel in there, but definitely tasted better than this one, the first taste. This one was brighter immediately, more interesting, and very good, and felt more of a balance between not being so on the full body side. But that third one is interesting. It's bright right away, but not too crazy, and then it kind of rounds off nice and smooth. So that's nice on my palate. So I hope you enjoyed that. That was the tasting. As always, what you think and see, Ika, what you think and see in the Artisan and what you're roasting and the technicality of roasting. Like they say, doesn't matter until you taste it, and if you like it, then it's a win. And I like them all, but I like number 3 the best. So let's figure out which one that was. So number 1 was the first batch. Number 2 was the third batch. And number 3, my favorite, was the second batch. So in this video at the same time, we're going to go and look at the data and see what happened there, and we'll dissect that together. So I'll see you there, and I'll see you back at the desk. Okay. These are really good.
Okay, here we are at the third batch, and the reason why I want to take a look at number 3 first is because I thought I nailed it. So let's take a look at what I did. Now, with this natural, I actually had a bias. I was like, well, it's a natural, so it's going to be sweeter, right? So I'm going to shoot for a 5-minute drying, and then maybe a 4 or 5 minute, middle phase, and then I'll probably develop it for 3 minutes. So that was my assumption, and that's what I tried to do, which I would say I did that pretty much okay. But the problem is that in the cup, I just basically developed it too long, and it's actually a really simple fix to fix this roast. So instead of roasting for a solid 3, come back and roast a solid 2, and I think that'll fit my palate a lot better. I like something brighter, something lighter. Definitely, I think I was talking to camera and I just wasn't paying attention. It is really hard to go and vlog about this stuff and then be really dialed into to roasting, but that's okay. It just makes the lesson that much more powerful and clear. And so that next time, yeah, cool, stick to my guns, pay attention to what's happening, that whole bit, stay present and all that stuff. But I think generally this curvature, this S curve, and the way that it turned out, the rate of rise and how it looks and everything like that. Yes, they have some dips in here because honestly, that last minute right here where I should have dropped and I was probably talking, I could have dropped it right there. And I think it would have been really good because I've had 4 minutes to develop here in the middle phase at least. And
almost about 4 minutes, right? And that's a great time to develop the necessary changes that I need to make in the coffee for it to be really tasty and good, and then to drop it at the right time so that I don't overpower all of that hard work that we did right here, right? So that's what I think happened. That's why I taste that little bit of undesirables in the cup. We had a nice, good turnaround. I don't think it was too sharp, and I don't think it was too slow. The charge time was good. Don't pay attention to this charge time on the Artisan. It's incorrect because I charge from the PID. But generally looking and generally speaking, I think this was a great first time to really nail everything for the most part and know that I can easily remedy this problem here. Okay, so that's the third batch that I thought I nailed. So let's take a look at the second one that I actually really loved. Close that, open this. Okay, so here's the second one, and this is the one I thought tastes pretty good. Nice turnaround, except this second batch, I hadn't realized that after I kill the power, I kill the gas after charging for about a minute, right? When I ignite and come back on, I was only coming back on to 1 kPa. Whereas in the third batch, I was coming back to 1.5 kPa, so 1.5 kPa of my full power. And it shows right here that I didn't have enough power to carry on through, and that's why we have this big dip, generally a big dip, or slope, or I don't know how, whatever, steep, kind of steep slope in the rate of rise. And so that's why this middle part ended up extending a little bit longer, but kind of cool that maybe we were able to develop more nuance and more flavor for my palate at least. And then to drop it after 2 minutes, that's good for me. And then kind of finish it there. So I think this is why this one tastes a lot better to me. This issue we can fix already by coming up to 1.5 kPa. This coffee in particular was only 1,300 meters elevation, right? So versus say something like a 2,200, I wonder how that will change in terms of the power, right? So they say that lower elevation coffees, you don't have to you don't have to give them so much heat in the beginning because they can carry the heat longer. Whereas something that's super dense can take on a lot of heat at first, but it won't carry it very long versus a lower elevation coffee. I hope that makes sense. So that's just something to consider in terms of elevation, how you charge, how you turn the heat back on and stuff like that. And it's all a fun little experiment that roasters love to kind of toy with, because then you go, cool, how does this affect this? And then how does this affect this in the chain, right? Because everything is connected, just like life, everything is connected. But to move through one section at a time is super fun. So this was the winner. This was the one that I liked, even though on paper it didn't look very pretty in terms of the data. But in the cup, I thought it tasted very good out of the three, and the most interesting, the most alive, I thought. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed that. It's really cool to look at the data, taste what we taste in the cup. Like I said, we're going to taste it in about 6 days from the roast date and see how the beans have settled down or whatever. See what they taste like. You know, does 1, 2, and 3 still taste the way that they did on the first run? So we shall see. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time here at Black City Coffee. See ya.